internet connection for some reason. For everyone who's just catching up, I definitely had some kind of issue happen to me. Looks like I was kicked off the air. In all my time surfing the internet, it would be quite strange for it to happen simultaneously. Okay, Jerbear's on Studio B is going to pull you in with Meki already there. Bugger. Alright. So I'll have to disconnect then, I suspect. Let's see. Join call.
Okay. International and local drug cartels rediscovered a gold mine of money supply.
This will work this time.
Hello?
Hello, I'm back.
Dave! Brilliant, you're joining me here in Studio B, right?
Yeah. Well, I just
fantastic.
I just picked up the
But you're coming in on A, so shut A off, and they're going to broadcast it on both studios.
Yeah, okay, I have. That's my old.
Definitely.
Jared, that's the old audio. Okay, so I have already disconnected from A.
All my time surfing the internet, it would be quite strange for it to happen.
Did you call in, or are you on Skype?
I did call in. I called in on Studio A. Now I've dropped the call. I'm on Studio B. And
I've got the server. I got you guys going. Just drop A.
I have dropped A, Jerbear.
Okay, but
all right. Okay, good. All right. Okay, we all dropped. So in Studio B, guys, and sorry, Dave. I just started on the list already, and I explained to our listeners.
Yes.
Why 9/11 is still a hot topic. Obviously, the questions haven't been answered satisfactorily. We're still confused about the Pentagon. What really went on that day, right? This is an astonishing thing. It went because thousands, tens, millions of people probably on TV watched it all happen, right, unfold. And we still can't get a clear picture as to what happened that day. Gigantic asbestos liability. Okay, remember the Twin Towers were built when asbestos was used for insulation as well as a fire protection. So 1 second ago,
Dave, excuse me. Are you on the phone or on Skype?
The towers were sold to a new owner, or leased, the 1990 lease. Really, I can hear myself, which is odd.
Yeah, we can hear ourselves through it.
Drop and come back in both and see if it's
done. But we're going to go on.
Just drop and rejoin the call.
All right.
Afghanistan. Okay, on the assumption that people from there were involved. Okay, so the heroin industry of Afghanistan came back to life in a big way.
I'm hearing that through Studio B's auto server.
The gold mine of supply.
This will work this time.
Hello?
Hello, I'm back.
Dave. Brilliant, you're joining me here in Studio B, right?
Yeah, well, I just picked up the server.
But you're coming in on A, so shut A off, and they're going to broadcast it on both studios.
For some reason. Yeah, okay, I have. For everyone my old I definitely had some kind of issue
that's the old audio.
Looks like I was kicked off the air. I have already disconnected all my time surfing the internet.
This is wild.
Okay, I've rejoined you guys, but I can still hear the old audio. That's really weird.
That's okay. That's just a delay, Mickey. But for some reason, it was coming through on the auto server.
So I got you guys going. Just drop A, and we're all good.
I have dropped A,
okay.
Okay, good. All right. Okay, we all dropped. So we're in Studio B. And sorry, Dave. I just started on the list already, and I explained to our listeners. Why 9/11 is still a hot topic. Obviously, the questions haven't been answered satisfactorily. Still confused about the Pentagon. What really went on that day, right? This is an astonishing thing. It went because thousands, tens, millions of people probably on TV watched it all happen, right, unfold. And we still can't get a clear picture as to what happened. There was a gigantic asbestos liability. Okay, remember the Twin Towers were built when asbestos was used for insulation as well as a fire protection. So 1 second ago,
Dave, excuse me. Are you on the phone or on Skype?
The towers were sold to a new owner, or leased, the 1990 lease, really. And I can hear myself, which is odd. Okay, this is now the audio from before.
That's
With the
big done. All right, I'm hanging up and I'm restarting. Now, who else? Now, the U.S.'s first national move was to bomb Afghanistan. Okay, on the assumption that people from there were involved. Okay, so the heroin industry of Afghanistan came back to life in a big way.
I'm hearing that through
International
Studio B.
Global Drug Cartel.
I know.
I know.
Yeah,
It should stop. It should stop.
work this time.
Hello?
Hello,
Okay, it sounds like we got it. Finally.
Hey Mo, hey Nelly.
All right, so it looks like we might have got all of those problems gone. Thanks, Jer Bear. Is there a reason why I couldn't have just gone back to A? But anyway, I'll just be quiet. Meki will be joining us any second, and I know he's rebooting Skype. I don't believe it was our end. I believe it was something coming through as a delay inside. Yeah, don't worry about that, Billy Hayes. It'll all make sense in a minute. All right. So if something wasn't letting us get to Studio A, it was killing my internet connection. First it killed Meki's, then it killed mine. And now we've moved on to Studio B. Hopefully that's going to be a lot better, even though we're simulcasting onto A. Is that right, Jer-Bear?
No, Justin stopped it, so there was no delay. So it should be all good on B, and then as soon as Meki gets in here, we're all good to go. And I'm muting out. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much. All right, so that was really what we were talking about. And just before Meki comes in, just to add to this, what I wanted to say for Meki and everyone, jump on B with me. I might just pull him in. This might be easier. Hang on, everyone. There we go. I can't call him back, Jer. You have to do it. You've got to pull Meki back in. There we go. All right. So, one of the things I wanted to mention was Putin is denying, just to take us back for 1 sec, Putin's denying that he's done anything in the Ukraine. In fact, that the images showing all the troops, the thousands of troops he's claimed to have had up on the border, he says it's just from a video game. And that's just, it's like everything else. How come that can't be fictitious as well? Now, Meki, we're back.
No, I agree.
It looks like we're all we're solid now, man. All right?
Great. So we've overcome our technical difficulties, guys, and thanks for filling the air. And we apologize for the dead air. Not our intention, guys. We do want to bring you information. And thanks, Gerber, for producing this one. So, Dave, look, let's go to the list. Obviously, we need to start again.
Yep.
So who profited? This is a very short list. We're going to go through it quickly because we've got some more detailed examples with a lot more media information further on in the show. So the New York Port Authority is one of the bodies that benefited from the Twin Tower collapse. Why, you ask? Well, because they couldn't really rent any space in it, and they had to deal with the asbestos issue. Some figures that have been bandied about speak about $200 million required to renovate the Twin Towers. $200 million to get rid of the asbestos and make them safe for habitation once again. Very, very steep bill, of course. Larry Silverstein acquired a 99-year lease just 3 months prior to the attack, which is very odd. And we spoke about the insurance that he took out, which pays out double if it's a terrorist attack.
Wow.
And he also argued that it was a double. It was two separate events because two planes hit two towers, and he tried to get a double the payout. And in fact, later on, we'll share with you a story as to how he tried to sue the airlines for yet more money because he didn't make enough quite yet. Incredible. This guy is amazing. You have to take your head off with so much. He's just callous. The U.S. Again, it is the drug trade profited from this, and by that the CIA as well, because, and again, there's going to be more detail later, but essentially Afghanistan was shutting down its poppy production, which of course affected the global heroin market, because 95%, back in those days, 95% of the global poppy crop was grown in Afghanistan, okay?
That's right, that's absolutely true.
And Wall Street, believe it or not, is one gigantic money laundering facility for the drug barons as well as for the CIA. Oh, and in fact, Mike Rupert, who took his own life recently, and my condolences to his family. He had the website From the Wilderness, and he was a cop, an LA cop who uncovered a lot of this, and he was one of the first voices to speak up in the aftermath of 9/11, and his research stands as a beacon to us all.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely right. So next one, Dave, is which one is investors? I think.
Right. Okay, we skipped one. Investors of profitable corporations connected to the military-industrial complex made a killing. Well, literally, mind the pun. Obviously, war has been profitable for some industries for eons, but we are told by most war historians profits are an inevitable consequence of war for merchants of death, yet they say profit is not the driving force behind war. For the American culture, since at least the Vietnam War, it seems to have become the driving force. What else does America still manufacture prior to 9/11? There was little in the way of war material inventories being depleted, but soon after 9/11, this all changed. In fact, some corporate stocks immediately went up in value, as did some military contracts. Note, as well as that after the Cold War, both the Pentagon and the intelligence apparatus should have cut their budgets in half. But then no one would have been promoted, and the Pentagon would have lost some money in its clout. Of course, you don't spend it, you lose it. That did not happen. Rather, the budgets doubled in size. How is that for financial austerity? Let's just continue to spend. Right? And in parallel to this, Mekki, the outsourcing of intelligence by the governments has increased at an exponential rate. Effectively, by removing intelligence from the government, you dumb the government down. When you're an external contractor, you want to increase your bandwidth with your supplier. That's always well known. Yeah. And put your people in the place of those people making decisions, so that you can decide to use your company more. And that happens. And in fact, that's been such the case that there are people writing the reports to suggest that they do something has been an external contractor who's then sourced themselves to supply that gear. I think that's an extraordinary situation when you get that. And all the while dumbing down, all they end up is just reading the executive cover sheet and going, yeah, that's a great idea. Whatever that costs, I don't care, right? What's it matter anymore, right? Exactly. Yeah. What's it even for? Absolutely. I don't know. I didn't read the second page.
And that's true. That's true. If you take it further, some industrial leaders and think tank politicians also believed it was necessary for certain companies, Halliburton, to control the various strategic resources, right? Certainly oil and gas at the moment. And to no surprise to anyone, I think here, those very countries in which the U.S. declared a war against terrorism are surprisingly the same countries that contain those resources. Whoa, what a surprise! The Middle East is full of oil and gas. Yes, let's quickly go in there, especially Afghanistan and Iraq, and make sure we're going to have a bit of a land grab, right? Make no mistake, Central Asia has got massive gas resources there as well, massive deposits, especially in the Central Asian republics, which are now all have American bases. So to better attack Afghanistan, right? Now, and the thing is this, the American oil supply has been declining steadily since the 1970s. So peak oil production in America was reached in 1972, I think. What does that mean? It means that at this point, you're pumping as much oil out of the ground every day as you will ever pump out again. Okay, so I think it was something like 4 billion barrels a year, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that back then. That has been consistently and steadily declining over the years, and going down, in fact, to such low levels in the coming decades that America will no longer have enough oil in its earth, on its territory to sustain itself. Therefore, one of the reasons certainly was to have a bit of a land grab and go after the oil in the Middle East. Not only the Middle East, Central Asia, everywhere. Okay, that's very, very important. And the plan was, of course, to build a pipeline through Afghanistan and Pakistan, and then to ship it out from the Indian Ocean. Much cheaper than just building it all the way through Turkey, and then through the Mediterranean and out from there. That's just very cost prohibitive. And in fact, the Taliban, prior to the invasion of Afghanistan, said, "Nah, we've mentioned this to you guys before. We will not, in fact, let you build this pipeline, and we will burn the poppy fields. Thank you very much." And that's what happened. And guess what happened after that? Afghanistan was the first country to be targeted. Okay, that's very, very important. The next point is, I guess, more around, advocates that advocate extreme laissez-faire economic policies. They wanted to rewrite the Iraqi constitution, Paul Bremer, for example, and they wanted a free market system of neoliberal economic principles to make it especially easy for foreign nations to own Iraqi resources. Now, this is important. The US did not have any problems with Saddam Hussein until he kicked oil companies out of Iraq because they wanted to take the lion's share of the profits. He nationalized oil. All right? Fact, not fiction. In fact, Hugo Chavez in Venezuela did the same thing, and he was the bogey for a long, long time. Long time. The Americans hated him. Not all Americans. I'm talking about the corporate oil companies here. I know not all
the oil companies hated him.
That's just very cost prohibitive. And
how come we've got this going again?
I've got an echo coming through, which is very strange.
And it's coming from our auto server.
You will not. Is it? Fact that you build this, and we
okay. Hang on.
Okay, look, we're gonna keep on going. Do you think we can keep on going, regardless?
I think I do. I think what we might do is go to Studio A.
That's very, very important.
At the top of the hour. Okay.
The point is, I guess, more around. Can we start off? I guess I'm sorry, it's very disorienting.
NSA, please stand down. We're trying to get a show on here, please. Knock it off.
To rewrite the Iraqi constitution,
I agree with you.
And they want a free market system.
I wish I was able to mute it. I wish that was a possibility.
Foreign nations to own Iraqi resources. Now, this is important.
You've got a tweet somewhere, Mackie.
Saddam Hussein.
Who can speak as well as me?
Okay, the next point, maybe that's why we're being interrupted. My point number 6 is Israel benefited. Not fiction. In fact, why? Because one of its major enemies, Iraq, was weakened and occupied.
Wow.
Keep on going. Yes, regardless.
I'm going to use Studio A instead, man.
Go get it.
Thanks, man.
Hello.
There we go. Okay, so it's you and me are okay. I'm calling Studio A and seeing what I can get out of it.
Okay.
All right. So, in all our history, Mackie.
This is the worst.
Yeah. It's definitely the worst.
It's death by 1,000 cuts. It's actually really clever because if they loop back on us, we just think, okay, well, that's interesting. But it waited until it had enough for us to not be able to talk over it.
Exactly.
That's just odd, isn't it?
It is. It really is odd. I'll tell you that. So I'm currently.
Yeah, I can see you. Yeah.
I'm talking.
You're trying
Justin.
to get the radio.
Yeah.
Are you talking? Okay.
And I'm currently chatting to Justin, and he's just going to turn simulcast back off again.
Okay.
It looks like he shut that off, and I'm going to end the call with it and call it back, and hopefully it'll pick up.
All right. We got about 2 minutes.
I know, right to the break.
We're going to start from the top again, dude.
I think we're going to. It's going to be much better. So, And I'm also recording this locally to a local hard drive as well, because I can't trust anything anymore.
This is crazy, man.
Yeah. I'm on Studio A, so no one can. I've been having problems, hackers, people playing, and I have server A, so they cannot grab it anyway.
Okay, it's dropped from A and B till top of the hour.
Can I grab it now? Wow, that's crazy, Dave. Dave, that's me. You, Nicky.
It's I don't know, man. I don't know what to make of it.
I know.
Hello.
Yep.
You still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
We just lost the station, right?
Yeah, that's me. Because
Okay,
we
cool.
didn't have it, and Justin said he said he grabbed it so no one else could take it.
Okay, cool.
Right. So yeah, he's going to tell me in a second that I can take it back again. How about if I just drag you in? Sure, okay. So let's drop this call and he'll bring us in, okay?
Perfect, mate.
All
Yeah.
right, bye. Okay, just you and me, looking good.
Looking good, looking good, looking good.
Wouldn't that be good if it was good?
And now go ahead and talk. I've got. Oh, there's a break. Let me find Mickey during the break.
All right, awesome.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
There is no denying the world is awakening. We see it in the global uprisings and demonstrations of the people around the planet and the new way of thinking and living that is arising naturally within each one of us and our communities. I have been a major player in this global shift and movement for over 20 years and have helped tens of thousands of people around the world change their lives and find their voice in order to help create the paradigm change we so desperately need. Join me here at Revolution Radio on the Just Bernard Show every Tuesday at noon Eastern Time for 2 hours of powerful interviews and discussion with some of the most influential visionaries of consciousness, alternative media, and suppressed knowledge. We promise to reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience.
Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it. I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. Thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. If you plan to call in and speak with one of our hosts, please turn down your radio and separate yourself from any background noise and wait for the area code to be called on before you speak. And don't forget, Revolution Radio freedomslips.com is listener supported. So stop by the homepage, freedomslips.com, visit the site support area to help support the host you're listening to's airtime. Thank you. Revolution Radio freedomslips.com, where the truth never sleeps. Revolution Radio. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
You're back with David Mackey's Shiny Side Out on freedomslips.com. That's right, as Hawk said, the #1 listener-supported talk radio on the net, since it is listener-funded radio. And you like what you hear, as Hawk said, because he's awesome. Please go to freedomslips.com and push the donate button. I said it, donate button on the site support page. Please push it. It helps support everyone.
Yeah, not the donut button, guys.
Not the donut. Donuts. I want sprinkles. Okay, so I'd also like to say hello to everyone who's now following us for the first time. Thank you. I've probably received maybe 50 or 60, I can't remember the exact figure, this week on across our platforms. Thank you. And if you are listening to this on YouTube, please don't skip the ads. It's the only way we can make, like, what is it, 1/2 cent, Mackie? Woohoo! Yeah?
Yay!
So
I'll spend it all in one place.
I got a machine, I can cut them in half. So quarters, because it's 1/2 cent each per view, so I give him a quarter. Do you know what? We're on doing 131, show number 131, and we're enjoying, so far, the experience you get from the 3-letter agencies when they don't want you to talk about something. So
yeah, so Dave and we're talking about October 13th. Our show is all about October 13th and the horrendous things that happened on October 13th.
1983, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
1983. That's when it happened. October 13th, right? So that's and what we're asking is who profited from it, right? You might have caught if you were still with us part of this in the first hour. We are going to recap on the list yet again. Excuse me. It's a very quick list. We will have to have another show next week dealing with this topic because we pretty much lost an hour, and our apologies. So without further ado, let's get cracking here. So as I said earlier, the one of the benefactors, if you will, of October 13th was the New York Port Authority, because the Twin Towers were entirely clad in asbestos on the inside, fire retardant, insulation, and so forth, right? And as I said, I've heard figures of around $200 million to renovate the Twin Towers. That number was bandied about. Significant, certainly. It's in fact $200 million is the annual profit revenue, I think, that the Twin Towers generated for the leaseholder. $200 million, thereabouts. Okay, that's the annual revenue. I don't think it's the profit. Okay, so, and not only that, but Larry Silverstein, just 3 months prior to this, managed to get a 99-year lease on the property, which includes the grounds, by the way, from the city of New York, and we've got some details around that because that looks a bit fishy. And we spoke about his greed, and we're going to have a bit more details around that as well a little later in the show. We also, I'm quickly recapping, Dave, here. We also spoke about the US's immediate attack on Afghanistan. I remember it, within hours they had declared, so that's number 2 on the list, that Afghanistan is the culprit. So who benefited from that? Well, the international heroin trade did, right? Because the Taliban had just started burning the poppy fields prior to the invasion, and the heroin supply dropped massively globally. And we know that heroin keeps up or props up the CIA and Wall Street. Yes, a lot of the money in Wall Street is in fact laundered drug money. Ooh, what a shock. Don't take my word for it, do your own research. Quickly, number 3. Investors in profitable corporations connected to the military-industrial complex made a killing. Again, no pun intended, as Dave said earlier. Essentially, they made a huge profit in this whole war scenario, right? And people always tell us, a war doesn't benefit anyone. Oh, that's a lie. That's a lie. Okay, if you're an arms dealer, if you're a weapons manufacturer, if you're in any of the auxiliary services there, then you're making a gigantic profit. Okay, now in fact, war, okay, in America has become the driving economic force. It is almost your single stream of revenue, right? It's incredible just how much money is generated. Not for the average American, mind you. This is for the elite. Okay, that's really important. Okay, so and then of course the Pentagon spends your money. I'm talking about to you guys in America now on cruise missiles that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars and maybe even millions. So that's not a good thing. But anyway, so they benefit, all right? Those corporations, Halliburton, etc., etc. Also, powerful industrial leaders and think tank politicians. A century for the new. It was the Institute for the New American Century, I think it is called. But we'll get to that in a second as well, right? So they believe that it should be certain countries and, in fact, corporations that control strategic resources such as oil and gas. And guess what? That's where they are. In the Middle East, oil and gas, Central Asia and Middle East. A lot of gas in Central Asia, a lot of oil in the Middle East, okay? Boom, done. It's quite amazing how it all worked out, because in all the Central Asian countries that were quite anti-American, prior to this, all have American bases now. I'm talking about Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and so forth. They're all circling. Not only that, the second geopolitical goal here is to encircle China. Okay, it's almost like having several Cubas next to China now, because Cuba is obviously very close to America, Florida, or just off the coast. You can swim there if you really wanted to.
Yep.
And now, whereas the Americans had to deploy the fleet at all times, really. And the closest country that they were friendly with, geographically speaking, would probably be Turkey, I would imagine. Now, much closer with the Central Asian republics. Okay, that's another one. Okay, now the fifth person, or the fifth entity on the list, advocates for extreme laissez-faire economic policies. What does it mean? It means that we want a free market system, irrespective of what happens. So a free market system only in as much as it doesn't have to be bailed out by you, Mr. Taxpayer, right? That's here the key thing. Free market system, meaning we want to privatize everything. Oil, gas, water, power, everything, right? That's essentially a free market system, okay? Now, interestingly enough, again, we said this before the break, the U.S. did not have a problem with Saddam Hussein until he kicked out the oil companies out of Iraq and nationalized oil. Same as Hugo Chavez, as mentioned earlier. Ooh, now let's see if we stay online here. Israel benefited by having, right, by having their neighbors taken care of. Like Iraq, it wasn't a fan of Israel, I can tell you that. Iran isn't, Syria isn't, and guess what they're talking about now? military intervention in those countries. Okay, it is ongoing. This is the key thing of this show. This has not finished. Okay, we did not declare victory, guys. Okay, the October 13th Truth Movement has not been completed because this is ongoing. This is not something that we can just, oh yeah, this chapter is closed. Let's move on. Thank you very much. No. But there's evidence that clearly shows that some Israeli supporters were part of the culture of deception to take the U.S. to war with Iraq. Do you remember the bogus evidence that was presented to the UN?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. These. I remember this. Dave, you must remember this graphic. It was like a mountain, like a sliced, it was a cut open graphic of a mountain, and inside it was almost like a Star Trek scenario, right? You had like different levels and
That's
trucks,
right. I remember seeing that. Yep.
Yeah, I can tell you, I didn't see anything like that when they finally did go and bomb the caves in Afghanistan. They were pretty much just caves, right?
Caves.
That's what they were.
Dug with a spoon.
Yeah, and look, it is amusing because it is so infantile. Dave, this is where we left off. Do you want to take
Number
the
7.
next group of beneficiaries? Yes.
Absolutely, I can do that. That's not a problem. Right-wing politicos, especially Christian and Judaic, who like to promote prejudice against anything Muslim and Arab benefited. Since, and who we're talking about, the time period of this, what you think to yourself, what do you have to call in an emergency? There has been, since then, since that same number you dial on a phone during an emergency in the US, there has been a constant propaganda war against Muslims throughout Western countries. But the fact is that those who do not wish Muslims to have influence in this culture have clearly clearly wage a major propaganda campaign for Westerners to fear the distrust a huge segment of the world's population as a cultural clash or a clash of civilizations like the medieval era of the Crusades. That's what I see this to be. I mean, it's quite clear that they're polarizing. We're all becoming polarized. We couldn't care less in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So why do we care now? It's because we're told to care. We're being instructed to care. We're being educated in the George Orwellian style of life that we live in, where we have infotainment instead of real news. So this is to say that Israel enemies have become the US's enemies as neocon propaganda campaign harps on Islamofascism or Islamic extremism or Islamo-extremism and Islamo-fanaticism. So if you haven't heard the word extreme, fanatics, or fascism recently in reference to Muslims, or Islamic radicalism, that's a new one too, Becky.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, this event is used to further persuade Americans, Israel, Israel is America's natural ally. And, we've seen the same thing. If anyone else in the world is killed, it's awful. But if Israel's killing someone, that's fine.
Well, they did it for a reason, right? That's why. Mm?
Yeah, that's right. But can't you can reverse the same thing about any other conflict. You can reverse it. So, meanwhile, this event is used to further persuade people and ally them and partner against the forces of evil. I love Mackie. I love the show notes, but that's what I'm seeing the same thing. And I mentioned it before. Hannity, and they had that pro-Islamic guy on there, and all they did was talk over each other, and I thought that was awful.
Yeah, look, that's true. And again, you're right, Dave. I mean, we are looking at the continuation of the Crusades here, which is really silly and quite dangerous and insane. In fact, insane. Now. Who else motivated? Number 8 on our list. Number 8. We're counting down here, Dave. Politically motivated people that have the desire to use fear to control people.
That old chestnut.
And as an excuse also to take away and destroy civil liberties, freedoms, right? And in fact, the Americans fought long and hard to attain those liberties and freedoms. And you got the Bill of Rights, which is very important in my mind, the Declaration of Independence. And slowly but steadily, these things have been chipped away at. Okay, and 9/11 with the Patriot Act 1 and 2 and the creation of the Office of Homeland Security, Department of Homeland Security, excuse me, have certainly moved you closer to a 1984 style fascist government. Okay. Again, it's not really a big thing, and fear, of course. I mean, you look at the news, and this is specifically for you Americans. I mean, in Australia, it's not as bad. Europe is not so bad either. But in America, wow! I mean, it's incredible. It is fear driven, and you're almost afraid to miss the news just in case there's another deadly outbreak of something or other. Maybe some meat is being recalled, or milk, or maybe rusty nails in your baby food. Who knows? But it is definitely something that. By design or otherwise, is now part of your culture. Okay, your news are entirely fear-driven. Okay, because people are glued to the TVs; they can no longer get away. And in fact, Obama has done nothing to do anything about that. In fact, the spy or the spying scandals came out now. Every one of you and every one of us is being spied upon. The leaders of other countries that are, presumably friendly with America. Germany, for example, or Great Britain, are being spied upon. Okay, they're being spied, the emails are being read, the phones are being tapped into, and so forth. That's just astonishing. In my mind, it is amazing. It's now actually becoming something that Obama is driving himself. Okay, again, look, the truth is this. Okay, it doesn't matter who's elected president. It really doesn't. Okay, it doesn't matter who's elected prime minister or who's the king. None of that matters. What matters is this: who is invited to the Bilderberg Conference? That's what matters. The Club of Rome, the Council of 300. The Council of Foreign Relations, all those bodies, they are the important ones. It is the bureaucracy, okay? The officialdom, if you will, that is important. It's also important who's behind it all, who set up the pyramidal structure. That's important. Okay, and everybody else will just fall into line. It doesn't matter if it's Democrat or Republican. Who cares? Who cares? I mean, okay, so you get healthcare with one and no healthcare with the other. You will end up in a camp anyway. Okay, it doesn't matter. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter.
Mekki, you're right. You know what? Watching Fox News for 15 minutes, you'll see the word alert and war on terror. What war on terror? So what? I mean, you got something happened 13 years ago. 13, count them. 13 years ago, yeah.
In fact, it was the long war, you know.
Yeah, why is it's a long war? That's right. It's a long war. How long can they still keep bringing that old thing out? They wheel it out. It's got its own oxygen bottle and walking frame. It's that old. Get over it, right? But remember, this is the same media that wants you to live in fear, and by propagating there's an alert and there's a war, it keeps you on side. You see, you can't keep the people on side if they're happy. They're not going to want you to do anything if they're happy. So you have to keep them in fear. And by propagating the fear, that's the only way to do it. So, you know, we had a little bit of that in the beginning, but our terror rating has gone all the way down. England's just raised theirs to the second highest terror rating. And when you talk about the control of the people, that's what it's all about. That's all it is. So some international political operatives willing to take American bribes, money, in exchange to playing and saying our tune have benefited. So I think Malaysia would be in that right now. I think Malaysia, they'd be loving the amount of money they'd be receiving in aid for their country for being part of the MH370 and MH17 issues. I'm just putting it out there because that's what I think happened. Yep. So those same people, and you count them in the Middle East. Mekki, I wonder how much it costs. I wonder actually actual cost is for putting in an American base in your country. What do you get?
That's a good question.
I wonder I wonder how your financial aid peaks. I wonder how it goes up. Wonder how much money it costs.
Wouldn't-
It costs
yeah.
them US.
Wouldn't be cheap. Wouldn't be cheap.
No. Yeah, we can put that defense system in with the missiles and that. You know, it's going to be great, and that's going to be part of our payment. But I think there's going to be more payment. I think it's what drives it. So remember this. Although a long time ago there were a lot of political factions in the Middle East, and there are to a certain extent now. I think the Saudis really have the easiest picture. They said all we've got is sand if we don't have oil. So let's build something and let's make some assets from nothing. And they have. And they can sit back now pretty comfortably, not being in too much trouble with anybody. I think they're seeing the sense in sitting back, whereas everyone else, what are they going to have? Nothing. And
Very little.
And we keep making, and I keep doing this, and we keep coming back to the single point for all of these things, which was oil. But I think that's the tip of the iceberg. I think there's a lot more to do. Now, and Mickey agrees with me. But we keep defaulting back to oil, like there was no war in terror. That's given. Yeah, there wasn't one. So yeah, oil's there. Yeah, the poppies are there. The next one, the drug trade, and what's the next one? I think it was Sumerian artifacts or other things that are there
Correct.
as well. So
This is the key thing that
So the money doesn't stop at paying the factions or paying the countries in aid. It also includes journalists who write the right story. You know, whatever Uncle Sam says, what are they supposed to do? Remember, real investigative journalism ended a long time in the corporate world, and so that's one of the things that that I see that is going bye. Of course, anyone that's connected to a military contract is going to keep their lips tight. You don't want to get on offside with them. And remember, the day before that date we can't mention because of the audio bots. They were selling the weapons. They even sold biological and chemical weapons to Saddam Hussein.
Yep.
They sold them to him, including anthrax and the plague.
The thing is this, guys. The thing is this. This is it, right? So Dave mentioned something. I'm going to give you 10 and 11 in a second. But Dave mentioned something very, very, very important. Now, there's no distinction between nationalities here. There's no distinction between American and Arab or English and German. It doesn't really matter. So let's make no mistake that Bush Jr. is his company. Arbusto Oil was funded, bankrolled in part by the Bin Laden family. Oh yeah, the same Bin Laden family. Osama is offspring of and have they ever met? Well, I'd be astonished if they didn't. I mean, it's not a small family, mind you, but these people are all connected. Did you know that the person that tried to assassinate Ronald Reagan? But that's when Bush was Bush Senior was in fact in cabinet with Ronald Reagan. His cousin was having a barbecue at the Bush estate the day before.
That's right.
His cousin Hinckley, I think his name was.
That's right.
So these guys are all connected. That's important. Okay, so who's number 10 on our list? Number 10 are people with a desire to destroy the political strength and the goodwill of the American people and government. But not only that, also destroy the goodwill that the world has towards the Americans. Make no mistake, after 9/11 they had a lot of goodwill in the world that has very quickly evaporated. Okay, the Americans are not, again, we do make the same mistake linguistically as most other people. I'm not talking about the American people. I'm talking about the American elite. Okay, and the United States elite that is driving all of this, the military-industrial complex, not Joe Bloggs in the street trying to make a living. Not that person, okay, because they couldn't care less and they probably wouldn't want to do it. Now, it seems... it doesn't seem to bother anyone, right? That America is going broke invading foreign countries. And in fact, it doesn't. Okay, it doesn't, and I'll tell you why. Because there's several scenarios here that we have to, and we spoke about this before. So the people that profiting are warmongers, okay, armaments merchants, and so forth. And in fact, World War III is a very likely outcome of this. Why? Because America has no other way to climb out of the hole it's in. No other way. There's no other way. There's nothing. I'm sorry, it just won't happen. Economically, America is dead.
Yep.
In debt. So it is dead and in debt, and it has a very little chance to come right again using conventional methods, trade and manufacturing and so forth. Because all manufacturing is gone offshore, all services are going offshore. So the American middle class is not making a lot of money. A million homes were foreclosed. So World War III seems to be on the horizon. Maybe a limited exchange, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't want to speculate. Is Ukraine one of the first salvos in that? Maybe, maybe not. Don't know. But it is almost inevitable at this point. Okay, almost inevitable. So, in fact, so it's actually now a class system in the United States. A class system. So these are the people that also benefited from September 11 because the gap has increased between the rich and the poor, and the collapse of the economy that recently happened has even further widened that gap. The reallocation of monies from Main Street to Wall Street is definitely something that has the chasm that has now opened up between the middle class and the really rich in America is astonishing. And what happens when you've got a lot of money concentrated in the hands of a very few is the economy suffers. Because if I've got 1,000 times more money than you, doesn't mean I will buy 1,000 cars.
No.
Okay? You will buy a car, but I won't buy 1,000 cars, right? Right, Dave? I'm not going to buy 1,000 suits.
You're not going to.
Yeah. But I will have all that money locked up. That money is no longer in circulation doing stuff. It might be in overseas or whatever, earn an interest, but it will not be in the United States.
And it doesn't support local companies, local shops, local people, and the middle class. All countries ride on the middle class.
Correct.
They ride on the back of the middle class.
Yeah, absolutely. And that middle class is sliding into poverty, right? That's in every country, by the way, in the Western world, every country.
True.
And you know what happens then? You have no choice but you join the army. You join the army, okay? If you're in a ghetto somewhere in the world, you've got probably three. You've got 3 outs, okay? One is, 4 outs. Let's call it 4 outs. So you're either very smart, you get a scholarship, right? 2, you're very athletic, so you get a sports scholarship, right?
Yep.
Or 3, you turn to crime, become a gangster, whatever, right? So or 4, you join the military. Right? In a lot of countries, that's a real option for people that want to get out of poverty. Join the military. Not very many rich people died in Iraq, or their kids, for that matter. Oh, what a shock! I wonder how many congressmen and senators sent their children to Iraq to serve. I'm not saying none. I just don't think there will be a lot. Okay. So finally, though, there's also a group of people that wants to save welfare for the corporations, not for the needy. Okay, so the super rich are more deserving than the rest of humanity. Okay, those are some of the people that benefited from this. Okay, these are groups of people. We haven't named any individuals yet. We will going forward, but these are the groups of people. And Dave raised a very important point we need to mention very quickly. Number 12, which is not on the list, we're just making up as we go. Number 12 on the list is the group of people that wishes to take control of ancient lands and artifacts therein. Artifacts, like cultural artifacts, technological artifacts, who knows? All right, make no mistake, the land of Tigris and Euphrates, Mesopotamia, right, now Iraq, Iran, and Syria and so forth, is the cradle of Western civilization as we know it, okay? Cradle of Western, not Eastern civilization or the Americas or anywhere else, just Western civilization. And there's a lot of stuff that went on there, a lot of things that were buried and forgotten, and don't forget the tales of the Arabian Nights and so forth. A lot of things that are still there to be discovered, okay? This entire region from India, okay, in fact China, from India, in fact all of the East still has the tales of what it was like in the olden times, in the golden age, the technology that we had, voice activated doors, all that kind of stuff. I would not be astonished if they had found that. I know the Nazis did find something in the Himalayas. They found something. Okay, they did. They found something in the Antarctic as well. Very, very old. We've been here for a long time, right?
There's also rumors that there is like a spaceship or a gateway or something inside one of the hills, and that they lost some people already who had come in contact with it, but it's there, and it's like it's in stasis or something. So there's rumors of that one. I like that one. Remember that was, modern day Iraq is Sumer, the Sumerians, the Sumerian texts, the Anunnaki, the Enki, you name it. Everything stems out of there. And to find out more at this crucial point in human history, is probably the whole reason, from my perspective, that I think that the US went in there. But of course, the rest goes without saying. Yes, we can prove there's oil. Yes, we can. We have the information here that highlights, where does the money go? If you want to find out why something happened, find out where, because money is the motive. Yeah?
Absolutely. In fact, on that particular layer, that's absolutely true. And again, it is very important to realize this is a multi-layered, multifaceted operation. I'm not talking about October 13th here. I'm talking about the entire running of the world, or the entire pyramidal structure of power that we're living under. Okay, the way our society and civilization is structured, with someone on top and then a whole bunch of people at the bottom, with someone in the middle. So there's a reason for that, right? And it is partly biological, right? So we're actually programmed to work and think like that, but partly it's also by design. Our civilization was pushed into this kind of, government structure, if you will, or politics. It doesn't really matter what you call it. Okay, but I want to quickly, Dave, I'm going to take this one, you take the next one.
Sure.
We want to give you some more details, some more meat around who actually benefited from that. We're going to give you some names here, okay? This is very, very important stuff. So, and thank you, Chindolo. You're quite right. It's the Project for a New American Century. That's the think tank. And, people like Richard Pearl and Paul Wolfowitz, William Crystal, Dolph Zackheim are all members of it. Their names should ring bells, okay? Some of them were involved with the Bush administration. Okay, so what we believe here is that the October 13th attacks did serve as a pretext, okay, for the imperial ambitions of the Bush administration and, in fact, the neocons, okay, the neoconservatives in Washington, and that took years of planning ahead of it, right? I mean, this wasn't just an event that happened and then stuff happened after that. Like some of my friends believe, stuff happens, then more stuff happens, and you pile some more stuff on that, and something will fall off, and there you go. That's reality. No, it's not. Okay. Now, deployments, and this is important. This is very, very important because it takes a long time for the military machine, especially the size of the United States, to get into motion. But deployments for the invasion of Afghanistan began within days of October 13th.
And that's impossible. Okay.
What a shocker. Yes, I know it is. But there it is, right? Boom. And look at where the Americans are positioning themselves now. Look where the fleets are. Look where they are now, right? And look where they are planned to be in the future. Now, the attack failed to produce the capture of bin Laden. So very quickly, and for me, without any pretext or evidence or any plausible reason, the blame shifted to Iraq. In fact, not just Iraq, but Saddam Hussein specifically. And that then, culminated in the invasion and occupation of Iraq, which you might argue led now to the breakup of the Iraqi state. Now, let's examine this for a second. There is no evidence at all. Osama didn't say Saddam Hussein helped him. In fact, Osama bin Laden never said that he perpetrated October 13th.
Never claimed responsibility.
No. Now, Osama bin Laden is a religious fanatic. Okay, well, you say, yeah, he's crazy. No. He's not crazy, but he takes the Quran and the teachings of Muhammad literal. Okay, so he's a fanatic in that sense that this is his worldview, and that's what he wants to build a world upon. I understand that. I get it. Saddam Hussein is a socialist. I should say. Saddam Hussein was a socialist. The Ba'ath Party of Iraq, which is the same party as in Jordan, I think, or Syria, same party, is a socialist party, a secular party, which is not rooted in Islam at all. In fact, Saddam Hussein, Muammar al-Gaddafi, and I believe Anwar al-Sadat. Back when he was in charge of Syria.
Yes.
Were hated by the Islamic fundamentalists because they were secular politicians. They would not be in league with each other. Very unlikely. They wanted to kill him. They wanted to kill Muammar al-Gaddafi as well. They wanted to kill him too. Okay? These guys are not friends. They're not buddies.
You're right. Anwar Sadat was shot by his own security team. And he said...
what a shocker.
He said, let there be no more wars.
Yeah.
He didn't want any more war in the Middle East. He was done with it.
Yeah. So, yeah. So what you have here is an extremely flimsy pretext for the invasion of Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
Flimsy. Like I said before, though, he nationalized oil. That was his big mistake. Don't nationalize oil. You're cutting into the profits. Now, the Project for a New American Century, and again, thank you, Chindolo, you're quite correct, is a think tank, and that included, the core policy advisors for the Bush administration. Okay? And they formulated in a text which called for New Pearl Harbor. And the policy paper was called Rebuilding America's Defenses. And that was just 1 year before this particular event, before October 13th. It also foreshadowed the use of Saddam Hussein as a pretext for the invasion of Central Asia. Remember, Central Asia, that's really where it is. You got the oil in the Middle East, and you got the gas in Central Asia.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you some excerpts from the paper. Now, the authors are Richard Pearl, Paul Wolfowitz, Dorf Zeckheim, and William Crystal, and others, as I mentioned before. This is now the excerpt. Further, the process of transformation, even if it brings revolutionary change, is likely to be a long one, absent some catastrophic and catalyzing event like a new Pearl Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
While the unresolved conflict with Iraq provides the immediate justification, the need for a substantial American force presence in the Gulf transcends the issue of the regime of Saddam Hussein. Oh, yeah, they also looked at what seemed to be the approval of the use of biological warfare as a political tool. You might have heard of gunboat diplomacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
In fact, war, believe it or not, and I've studied political sciences, believe it or not, war is the last tool of diplomacy. You go, what? Yeah, no, it is true. It's a fact. The war is the very last. Is the very last tool of diplomacy. Now, this is what they say. Again, the same guys
Mm-hmm.
from Project New American Century. Advanced forms of biological warfare that can target specific genotypes may transform biological warfare from the realm of terror to a politically useful tool. Let's kill all the redheads. Let's kill all the people with freckles. Let's kill all people that are less than 5 feet tall. Let's kill all Arabs. Let's kill all, I don't know, Vietnamese, whatever.
People with straight hair.
That's what they're... Yeah, the people with the straight hair. I hate those guys. Okay? Interestingly, there's a book which I also have in my bookshelf. It's called New Pearl Harbor. And the author is John Pilger. He's a political... He's a political writer, if you will. And this is what he says. The threat posed by U.S. terrorism to the security of nations and individuals was outlined in prophetic detail in a document written more than 2 years ago, and that was back in 2003, by the way, and disclosed only recently. So he said that in 2003. What was needed for America to dominate much of humanity and the world's resources, it said, was some catastrophic and catalyzing event like a new Pearl Harbor. The attacks of September 11, 2001, October 13th, 2002, provided the new Pearl Harbor described as the opportunity of ages. Yeah?
Yep.
Okay?
I'm with you.
You hear me, guys?
Mm-hmm.
This is. I mean, I got the book here in back of me. You can't see the video. Okay, so this is just. Okay, these people benefited massively because they actually thought it all up. It's not like, oh, what a shock. All these things are surprising. No, they thought about this well before. Okay, if people had read Hitler's book, Mein Kampf, I don't think he would have gotten as far as he did, because in meticulous detail, he explains and describes in Mein Kampf what he was going to do if he got into power.
Wow.
You don't believe me? Read it.
Yeah.
Read it. Now, sorry, Dave. This one I know you love, so you can go right ahead with Mr. Silverstein.
Ah, yes. Good old Larry Pullet Silverstein and his partner Frank Lowy acquired a 99-year lease on the entire World Trade Center complex just weeks before 9/11. Sorry, the October 31st attack. That's just going to have me going for ages. The lease was purchased by the Silverstein Group for $3.2 billion. That's not very much money, really.
It's
This
not.
is a dream come true, Larry said. We will be in control of a prized asset and we will seek to develop its potential, raising it to new heights. There's two particular good parts of that quote. One is, we know what the term raise it means. What happens if you raise something to the ground, Mickey?
Yeah, it's gone, right?
It's gone. And develop its potential.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's already a building. It's already a building cluster. It's a structure set. It's there. You buy it. Whatever it is, that's where you get it. Yeah, as is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there he goes. The deal was negotiated by Louis Eisenberg, the former chairman of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. Eisenberg was recently appointed, at the time that was, chairman of the Republican National Committee. Eisenberg had resigned from Goldman Sachs in 1980s after secretary accused him of sexually harassing her. I actually remember that case.
Yep.
When New Jersey Governor Christine Todd Whitman appointed Eisenberg chairman of the Port Authority in February of 1996, Forbes magazine wrote that it was a strange political appointment, considering the part he played in the sex scandal that rocked the Goldman and the financial community in the late 1980s. Silverstein had built seven World Trade Center in 1987 on property leased from the Port Authority, but the sixth building World Trade Center complex remained under public control until Silverstein and Lowy obtained the 99-year lease. Wow, so he owned a small part of this.
Yep.
He built Building 7.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's something else. That's really getting there. Okay, so when he obtained the lease 3 months before, in July 26, 2001. The new deal left Silverstein in control of 10.6 million square feet of World Trade Center office space and gave Lowy control of 427,000 square foot retail mall in the World Trade Center basement. But the World Towers were not the real estate plum they were led to believe. From an economic standpoint, the Trade Center, subsidized since its inception, has never functioned, nor was it ever intended to function, unprotected in the rough and tumble real estate marketplace. Wow, okay, I didn't know that. I know that there was...
That's from Business Week, by the way.
Yeah.
That's a quote from Business... Yep.
And I knew that it was a great address to have on your business card, but it was very seldomly let out. There was always a lot of floors of vacancies,
Yep.
Also, the towers required some 200 million renovations, as Meki, my esteemed co-host, mentioned earlier, in renovations and improvements, most of which related to removal and replacement of building materials declared to be health hazards in the years since the towers were built. And that's the...
Asbestos.
Also, Meki, as we know, every single fluorescent light has a single drop of mercury in it. Mm-hmm. Every single one. And the health issues relating to, I forget how many there were, but let's just say 500,000 of those drops being released in the atmosphere was actually pretty bad. So the World not Health Organization, one of those, the EPA or someone, found out. So this is from the Arctic Beacon. It was well known by the city of New York that the World Trade Center was an asbestos bombshell. For years, the Port Authority treated the building like an aging dinosaur, attempting on several occasions to get permits to demolish the building for liability reasons, but being turned down due to the known asbestos problem. Further, it was well known the only reason the building was still standing until 9/11 was because it was too costly to assemble the Twin Towers floor by floor, since the Port Authority was prohibited legally from demolishing the buildings.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something extraordinary right there. So They tried, just in short, they tried to pull them down. They were denied. They realized there was a problem, and it was denied. Other New York developers had been driven into bankruptcy by the costly mandated renovations, and $200 million represented an entire year's worth of revenues from the World Trade Center towers. The Monetary Herald wrote in 2003, under a pending agreement, the developer and his investors will get back most of the down payment that they made to lease the World Trade Center just 6 weeks before a terrorist attack destroyed the Twin Towers. Developer Larry Silverstein and investors Lloyd Goldman, another big name, Joseph Kayer, and are nearing a deal that would give them about $98 million of their original investment of $124 million. The New York Times reported Saturday. That was Saturday back then. Okay, instead of renovation, Silverstein is rebuilding, funded by the insurance coverage on the property, which fortuitously covered acts of terrorism. Even better, Silverstein filed 2 insurance claims for the maximum amount of the policy based on the 2, in Silverstein's view, as separate attacks. The total potential payout is $7.1 billion, more than enough to build a fabulous new complex and leave a hefty profit for the Silverstein Group, including Larry Silverstein himself, that's personally. As reported in the Washington Post, the insurance company, Swiss Re, has gone to court to argue that 9/11 disaster was only one attack, not 2, and therefore the insurance payout should be limited to $3.55 billion. Still enough to rebuild the complex. Wow. So the WTC leaseholder may collect up to $4.6 billion. Yeah, there's going to be legal costs and maybe minus some taxing and stuff like that too, I'm sure. But Meki, we talked about this in a previous show where the buildings themselves to be pulled down because, as we know, buildings are constructed within a particular lifespan, and as marvelous as they are to be constructed, that where they have a life, they have a lifespan. Unless you build the whole thing out of a material that no one knows of yet, which will stay there for billions of years. No, these don't. They have a usable life, and especially if the maintenance goes too high, like appears to be in their case.
Absolutely. Look, obviously it couldn't be demolished by law. It would have released too many toxins into the air. So they would have to dismantle it floor by floor, which of course would have been prohibitively expensive, right? So you're right, Dave. I mean, so how fortunate that 2 planes were flown into those buildings then, right? And
so who copped the
there's
cleanup
more
bill, Meki, who copped it? That's something else. He didn't have to pay for it, I'll tell you that much. So
exactly. Now, see, the final ruling though was that he did collect the money for 2 separate occurrences. That's what the courts ruled.
Wow.
Okay, but there's more on Larry Silverstein a little bit later. He's one callous cold fish, I tell you. He made a gigantic profit off this thing, right? I mean, you're looking for money motive? It's right there.
I've heard that there's a particular brand of sale where you destroy your own building for the insurance money.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it has to be extraordinary. Now, Meki and I have talked about Building 7. I've got a lot of imagery, and if you're watching this on YouTube, you would have seen me flick past some slides. Going past, the Trade Center, also the Pentagon and Flight 93 in Pennsylvania. There's Building 7 was the most extraordinary because it wasn't hit with anything, and it did do its own controlled demolition, as did both the other buildings. And do you know what? Just the profit motive alone on the insurance claim, certainly that sells me. I'm done. I don't need to read anything anymore. Meki?
Nope, that's it.
That's it. Done.
All good.
Yep.
That's it. Beautiful.
If you had to follow the money, there's motive enough, and if in fact it was determined, outside of all of the infotainment we saw about the incident, that would be enough for him to be disqualified. The payment, if he had the right jury and the right judge who weren't his friends, and that would be enough to try him.
Absolutely.
All right.
There's more though. In fact, you're right. I mean,
if it was a garden shed that I had insured, and it got knocked down, I'd still profit. And that if I was found to be in collaboration with those people who did it, that would be enough.
Yeah, it's just the sheer size of it, though, Dave, which has people boggled. And I think, in regular folk, it's just, it's not possible that a person would kill 3,000 people. Of course it is possible a person would kill 3,000. Are you crazy? The tens of thousands of people were wounded in Iraq and Afghanistan, and close to 10,000, I think, all up were killed. Yeah? These people will never reclaim their lives. So when we say, 3,000 people were killed, that's a lot of people. Jeez. That I can't imagine that anybody would do that. Of course, happens every day. People are being put in harm's way. People are being killed all the time. Yeah.
If it's $4 billion, woohoo! I'll do it.
Yeah, look, absolutely. I mean, corporate downsizing, right? I mean, we've got CEOs whose target is tied down to making money, and the best way to make money is to save it, which is to fire people. If you got millions of dollars tied up in bonuses, you fire everybody and his mother. That's what you do. And if this kind of money, you kill people. Of course you do. I mean, I'm not saying you do this or I do this or Dave does this. I'm just saying those guys do it, right? So, now there's corporate profiteering, which is a great segue, by the way, right? So the events of October 13th also led to a whole bunch of corporate profiteering. What do we mean by that? Well, the large, consequence was the invasion, occupation of Afghanistan and Iraq. Okay. And all they were built on the fact or the myth, we should say, that Al Qaeda was in fact responsible for the events. Now, the quarterly earnings of the biggest oil and gas corporation surged after the U.S.-UK invasions of Afghanistan and Iraq. Okay, and I've got a table here which gives you the net income of the major oil companies for the first 6 billions of dollars. Okay, this was published in 2003, August. USA Today. You can look at it yourself. The Royal Dutch Shell Company made 4.5 billion in 2002 and 8.2 billion in 2003. ExxonMobil made 4.7 billion in 2002 and 17.2 billion in 2003. Chevron Texaco, 1.1 billion in 2002, 3.5 billion in 2003. Okay. Business Week of February 23rd, 2004 reported that the 2003 U.S. corporate profits were the largest in 31 years, and they were led by Big Oil. The group's earnings, Big Oil that is, more than doubled to $45.2 billion. ExxonMobil Corporation accounted for the bulk of the industry's gain and ranked number 1 in total profits. Earnings rose 90%.
Oh, Mecky's dropped off after mentioning that word. Goodness me. That's something. Mecky, okay. Mecky, they got you on Halliburton then?
Yes.
Do it again. We don't mind. We'll say your name again. Yeah, you'll say your name again. The group's earnings more than doubled.
More than doubled. That's right. Profits by subcontractors to the largest oil and gas corporations, such as Halliburton and Schlumberger, have also surged. All these corporations share in the flow of oil and gas from war-torn Iraq. Not only that, they are also sharing the profit from rebuilding Iraq after the war. These contracts were not put out to tender, they were simply awarded. That's usually not done. Okay, normally you have to actually bid for a contract.
You bid the tender. That's right.
Yeah, and that's part of the work that I do. Ooh, what a shocker! Now, Chevron Texaco showed a record quarterly profit in the first 3 months of 2004, 2.56 billion, as the price of gas in the US rose, despite the output of oil from Iraq also rising towards a pre-invasion level of 2.4 million barrels a day. Yeah, in 1972, long before the enormous corporate mergers of the past decade, the then Chase Manhattan Bank held 5.2% of the voting stock of Mobil Oil and 4.5% of Atlantic Richfield. It's now Arco. Through ownership of shares or membership. Oh, okay, guys. Next week, more.
we will give you more, and we're going to name names. We're going to do the thing we do, and we're going to love it. So thanks to the station for getting us online again, and whoever was causing it, I'm sorry, but you failed. We're still online. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week for show 131.
Hey, buddy.
Boy, oh boy, what a tough day, Mackie.